Hello and welcome to my virtual studio. My name's Andrea and I'm a stitch textile artist. You can't visit me this year, so what I'm going to do is to make a couple of videos and show you some of the things that you would have seen if you had been able to visit me. So here I am. This is in my studio, which is a log cabin in Octomugty. And here's a slightly better view of it. And the walls are always covered in pieces that I've made, inspiration, pieces that I'm doing. And this year I spent a lot of time in my studio because it was also my work from home office. And I was set up on my bench here with my work computer and my scanner and keeping quite busy. I decided that I wanted to do some pieces to mark this rather odd period of time. And the first one I did, I have to say, was a bit of a joke, but these are the pieces all together. And I will talk through them and explain how they came to be. So this is the first one. And as I said, this was a bit of a joke because I'd made a series of Kandinsky inspired circle pieces. And I made two small framed ones specifically for the May Open Studios that didn't happen. But after we got locked down, I looked at them and I thought, no, they're so irresponsible. Those circles are all far too close together. So I made this one. So this is circles behaving irresponsibly, and this is circles at a social distance. And you can see they definitely have 2 meters between each one and lots of virus particles in the background. So this was a bit of a joke, but after that, I started getting a little bit more serious. And I started thinking about what I wanted to do. And my family all live abroad, and I spend quite a lot of time visiting them, taking loads and loads of photos. And this is Australia and America, different parts of America. And when I do visit them, I tend to make a memory piece, a wall hanging, and I buy fabric locally and I incorporate that into my piece. Well, there's obviously no holidays this year, so I was a bit nostalgic and I was looking back through some of my vast collection of photos. And it did occur to me that some of them would actually make quite good stitched textile pieces. So I selected a few of them and decided that this would be my series, and I call it Travel Without Leaving Home. So there's 6 pieces in this series, and they're all inspired by photos taken in Scotland, America, and Australia. And they wouldn't have been made without lockdown, so I do look on them as my silver lining. Now, life is very uncertain, and I can't say there won't be any more lockdowns, but for the time being, this is my series finished. So the first one here is called Cairngorm's Boulder. And this was the original source photo. I was staying in the area of the Cairngorms National Park in 2010, staying on my own in a hotel, doing reading and walking. And one day I went up to the funicular railway station, having left the car down in the park, caught the train up to the ski station, had lunch, came back down again and walked back. And it was a lovely day. And I spotted this beautiful boulder with all this marvelous colored lichen on it. So I took the photo, and this is a cropped image. So this is a portion of the photo. And what I've done here is I've actually drawn around the lines here that actually delineate the different areas of rock and the lichen and so on. And this is the photo that I ended up with, which is quite simple. And this is just the 4 different colors of rock that I feel are in this section that I've chosen. So here we are. This is the photo up on my iPad, so I can see it. Various different colors of thread here, of which I have a lot, but not always the exact color that I want. So there we are, all ready to sew this. And here we have, I've got it set up under the sewing machine, and I'm starting to sew all the different colors. And again, I'm using the photo on the iPad as a reference. So this is the finished piece, and all the different colors, the greens, the blacks, the oranges, these are all stitch that I have layered up. And this is how I work. I use the fabric like a color block, and I stitch on the fabric layers at a time. And there might be 10 or more layers depending on the complexity of the piece. And I essentially use my sewing machine like other artists would use a pencil or a brush. Now the threads in this piece probably cost more than the fabric. But unfortunately nowadays I can't go out quite as easily and get more fabric than when I want it. So I'm slowly working my way through my 60 or more reels. So that was number one, piece number one, and this is framed and it's in a 6-inch square frame. So this was my second piece, and this is Kosciuszko Street stained glass. Now this photo was taken in 2017 at Kosciuszko Street subway station. Now that's where my daughter and her husband live, and I spent a lot of time on the platform waiting for the J train. Now most of the stations on that line have their own individual decoration, and this is the beautiful, vibrant stained glass panels on that particular station. So I've chosen to make this one here, and I've used silk. The very vibrant colours of the stained glass are quite well represented by raw silk, and then I put them onto a black fabric background to get the stained glass effect. So I had to draw this by hand. I had to scale it up, and normally I would use an A3 photocopier, but unfortunately the A3 photocopier was at my work, which is in Cooper Library, and I couldn't get to it because we were all locked down. So I had to practice my drafting, and I got fairly good at it by the end of lockdown. So these are all the different colours of silk all ready to go, and they're all they all have bondweb ironed onto them, and then I painstakingly cut each individual shape out of the silk. And here you can see there is a key, and every piece has got a colour and a number, and that corresponds to an individual colour of silk. So that did take quite a long time, and I then put them very carefully down onto my my black fabric background, ironed them in place, and then stitched them. And here we go, I'm free machine stitching over each individual piece in a matching colour. And unusually for me, I have actually put the border on before I've started the stitching. Normally I would do it the other way around. And this is the finished piece. And I have been asked if it was a hemp plant. And I have to say, it comes from a subway station in Brooklyn, so anything is possible. But this piece is 18 by 19 inches, and it's unframed. This is called Morning Star, and this photo was taken in November 2016 in the Brisbane City Botanical Gardens. And the subject of the picture is Morning Star 2, which is a huge mirror stainless steel installation by the American artist John Barlow Hudson. And it reflects the scenery around it. These are all mirror panels, but the mirror sections are all at a different angle. So you get this wonderfully distorted view, and it almost disappears into the background. It's a bit like a chameleon piece. And again, what I've done here is this. That's the original photo. This is slightly enhanced, and I have drawn along each individual section to help me to work it out. And this one involved quite a lot of geometry, actually, because basically what I did, I traced the small image, and then I measured each angle and the distances here, and then I scaled the entire thing up. I just doubled everything, so the angles remained the same, but the distances were doubled, and I ended up with a much larger version. And I decided that I was going to make that individually. So the Morning Star itself was made on its own, and then it was put on top of the background. So once again, I have all my fabrics here. I think that there are 16 different coloured fabrics in this, and they're mainly browns and greens. Most of them are either commercial batiks or the mode de grunge fabrics, because I don't like a plain fabric. I like something that has a bit of, almost like, it looks like it's got a bit of texture in it already. And this is most of the Morning Star itself finished. I think I did add a few more bits. So it is being made independently on a background. And then when I'd finished it, I carefully cut it out. I made the rest of the picture the background, and then I I sewed Morning Star itself on, and it has a hole in the middle. The original has a hole in the middle, and you can see that there is the trunk of a pine tree, a palm tree, sorry, growing up there. So this is the finished piece. So having made the background, I then sewed Morning Star on, and here is my palm tree going up through the middle, and it sits on a rock plinth, and that's just one piece of fabric, but I've used the perspective drawing trick of a light, medium and dark shading to make it look as if it's 3D, but the shading in my case is stitching. And this took 7 weeks, and I have to say I lost heart in the middle, but I persevered and I carried on. And as I said earlier, all my fabric landscapes have birds in. That's sort of my thing. And I have fun choosing the bird to go with the piece. So this one is an ibis, and here he is. And then that's a close-up there showing the ibis. Now you see these all over Brisbane, along with big signs saying, "Do not feed the ibis." And if you can imagine something a bit like a seagull, but it has long legs and a long beak, and it actually is tall enough to steal the sandwich off your table when your back is turned. And although they're known locally as bin chickens, they do look very elegant in flight. So here is my bin chicken ibis winging its way across the background. And this is 22 inches square, and it's also unframed. Now the next piece is another stained glass one, but it is very different to the last one. And this is the Met Cloisters Grisaille window. I visited the Met Cloisters Museum, which is up at the top of New York City. When 2015, I was visiting my daughter who lives there, and I took a picture of this stained glass window. Now it's dated around 1270 to 1280, so it's a medieval piece, and it features an intricate and complex pattern which is painted onto the glass in black lines. There's a minimal amount of coloured glass in these panels, and in this instant it's just the red circles and centres here, and the blue lattice. Now this is described as one of the most intricate and complex patterns found in grisaille windows of the period, and I agree, and I had to draw it out again. This is me not having a photocopier, so I drew it out in freehand. I drew one section and then I traced it, and I copied the other sections here. And this is it. Now, the reason it's so complicated is because it's a bit like a Celtic knotwork design, and it has unders and overs. So here we have a line which is going over, and then this line goes under, and it carries on that way around. So we're going over, but under, over, but under. So it's actually quite complex to sew. When you're drawing it, you can either lift your pencil or you can rub a bit out, but it's not so easy when you're sewing. So I did have to backtrack a lot to try and get this effect. So what I did, I actually drew the design onto a piece of calico in pencil. So here you can see these are the unstitched lines here. So this is where I have not stitched yet. And I followed the line, but as I said, I did have to frequently backtrack in order to not cross my lines. So here is pretty much all the stitching done. Now I can get away with stitching along here because I know that there is going to be the blue lattice going over the top, so that will get hidden. But this was the difficult part, and the next part was fairly straightforward because I just put the circles. And again, I'm using my beautiful silks because you get the truly vibrant nature of stained glass by using silk. And then I put the lattice lines on, I put a border around the outside, and then I put it into a very deep border, and I used perspective lines to give the feeling that it is set back into the wall. And now this one I treated in a slightly different way to normal, in that this is actually mounted onto a 20-inch square canvas, which was practicing for something else that I did a little bit later. but this means that it will hang on the wall in the same way as any other canvas. This was fairly quick, and this only took me about 3 weeks or so to sew, because I was just following lines. I wasn't having to think an awful lot except to work my way around the pattern without stitching over my lines. So this one is a 20-inch canvas, and this is the grisaille panel. The original was not square, so I squared it up. I just wanted to make one section. And this piece, this is number 5, and this is Pitton Lighthouse. And this photo was taken in 2017 in Pitton, obviously. Now, most of my time off is spent sewing, and I tend to go abroad for holidays, so I don't get to see as much of our beautiful Scotland and Fife as it deserves. But on this occasion, I was on leave, and I just decided I was going to go to Pitton for the day, and had a lovely day, and I took loads of photos around the harbour and the beach. And I particularly liked this photo, and it was the stonework of the old lighthouse and the harbour wall that it sits on. That's really what fascinated me. So again, I drew it out. Now that is the right way around image, but because I'm stitching from the back, I have to reverse my image. So that's the mirror image, which goes on the back, and then on the front, it comes out to look like that. So here it is finished. There were very few elements in this, actually. There's only 4 pieces of material in it. So we've got the sky, which is just 1 piece. We've got the white of the lighthouse itself. We've got the cap, the verdigris cap, and then the stone. Now this was all 1 piece. This was 1 piece, and the sky was 1 piece. This was a fabric that I'd actually painted years ago during City and Guilds, and I painted on one side, but when you turned it over, it just had a little bit of black, and so it wasn't plain white, but it was only the bits of paint that actually showed through on the other side. So this worked very well, and all the different elements here, all the different bits of stone and the mortar, that's all free machine stitched. So the whole thing is, it did take quite a long time, and it is fairly complex. And here's my bird. Here we go. So we have the Fife seagull as the bird in this one, and a couple of further away seagulls. Now, although this was part of the series, it was always intended for the Fife Art Exhibition this year, as there was a theme, and the theme was coastal waters. And so this is mounted onto a 20-inch canvas, and having experimented with the grisaille window, I was slightly better with this one. So it's mounted onto a canvas, it's stapled down the back. I fitted it with D-rings, I strung a cord on, and it can easily be hung on the wall. And as you can see here, to my delight, it was actually highly commended at the Fife Art Exhibition this year. So I'm very pleased with that one. And this is the last of the lockdown pieces. And this photo was taken again, November 2016, on the same day that I took the Morning Star picture. And I had a fabulous day just wandering around the botanical gardens. I'm very inspired by nature, and there's not much better than a botanical gardens to see so much variety and so much colour. And the colour appealed to me. It's just the vibrant yellow, orange and red. And the working title for this one was actually Yellow Flower, because although I love nature, I'm not a very good botanist, and I didn't actually know what it was. However, my sister identified it for me, and it's a daylily. So this is now Australian daylily. So this is the original photo, and then what I've done here is I just removed the background, and then again I've traced it, and you can see this is actually the right way round. So I would reverse this tracing to put that onto the back of my fabric. And here we have, this is an Australian fabric that is actually little boomerangs, not little worms as my mother reckoned, or little maggots, but it is actually boomerangs. But it's, again, it's a fabric that was bought at the time that, that I took the photo. So the flower is just one piece of fabric. Now this is a lovely piece of batik fabric, which is basically yellow, but it's got all these other fabulous colors in, and the center is black. So this is the only two bits of fabric in this. There's the background, and then you have the black center and the orange of the flower. And this is the finished result. And I used red, orange, black, yellow, and white thread to get all the detail and the shading. And one of the exciting things for me is seeing a flat 2D image turn almost into 3D just by using stitch. And again, it's a drawing technique. It's using the darks and the mediums and the lights to try and make something dimensional. So this is a 12-inch square framed, this one. And this is the last of my lockdown pieces. So thank you for watching.